What's going on, everybody? Yeah, I just wanted to get on here today and show you guys how to fix some pitchy vocals, and at the same time kind of take your music to the next type of level. It's one of those things where vocals can really make or break a track. And to get going, maybe if you don't know where to find vocals, if you're just getting into producing, Looperman has a pretty big selection of acapellas, and basically they're user uploaded. And just for this demo, I found this guy's vocals, and this is like not a bash or anything against this guy, because a lot of times vocals and singing is a little pitchy at times, and with music production in today's world, everything's got to be so tight and perfect. It's one of those common issues that I think a lot of people could benefit from learning how to do this. So I got his link in the description if you actually wanted to work on this track yourself. It's pretty interesting, pretty cool start, and you could do a lot of stuff with it. But for his track, it's in the key of C, and so we're going to get FL Studio pulled up, and basically once you download it, you just throw it into the DAW here. Got the tempo matched at 109, and so there's a couple ways to do this. And if you don't have for most maybe professional vocal auto-tuning, a lot of times people are going to use I don't know even how to say this right, Antares, AutoTune, and that's what you'll hear in a lot of like hip hop and stuff. But at the same time, that's not the only option for auto-tuning and pitch correcting vocals. I'm going to show you guys a free way to do it, and then also how to do it with some of these built-in plugins, these native plugins from FL Studio. And so probably the first one I'll show you how to do, kind of working backwards here with a new tone. And so what you want to do is grab that vocal and just throw it into to new tone, and it kind of plays like this.
I still remember that day 'cause I was awake.
Yeah, so it's a nice vocal, and just needs a little bit of cleaning up to really get it to that next level. And the way Newton works, it basically, once you throw it in here, you have these three knobs that can be used to pitch correct. What this center knob does is it snaps those vocals. Let me get this pulled up a little bigger. What it does is it snaps those vocals to the nearest note. Kind of see how that's affecting that. If you turn it all the way like this, you can kind of get a different.
I still remember that day 'cause I was awake.
I don't typically use a new tone that much for adjusting pitchiness and vocals. But what's interesting about it is you can kind of use it to slice vocals, and so in the key of C, little music theory here, it's all the white notes are in the key of C, and it's the relative minor of A minor. So anything in A minor, C, that's white notes. And just a fun fact, for music theory, the only difference between the key of C and the key of G is one note, and that's F sharp, where the key of C is just an F. And so you can take basically a vocal like this, which is in the key of C, and you have like four keys that you can produce in. You can produce it in C, A minor. You'd also find where the vocal lines up to F sharp or F, and raise it to an F sharp, and then all of a sudden now you can have a little bit more options when producing. But you can see from this vocal, like down here, it's on a black note, and so all you do is move it up and get it onto the white notes. And that's kind of like the same situation. That's like a really obnoxious. It's a really obnoxious sound, and you just kind of just pick them up and drag them where you need it to go. And yeah, Newton works pretty cool for slicing vocals, because now you can kind of chop these up and do whatever. Another way to pitch correct these vocals is with a native plugin for FL Studio called Pitcher. And kind of how this works, you can set the key and then run it like this.
I still remember that day, 'cause I was awake. I still remember that day, 'cause I was awake.
And the thing with this, it's like you have this speed knob, which kind of affects how fast this vocal gets affected. And so you kind of want to dial that in so that it doesn't sound too artificial, unless you're going for that sound. Like a lot of hip hop, you kind of like that AutoTune. Some people do. Like that AutoTune sound, I guess. And so you basically start to adjust this speed knob, and you can see how it affects the actual vocal. Let me just play it out and just kind of tinker with that.
I still remember that day, 'cause I was awake. The way that you walked into the room has captured my heart. That's how the story unfolds, and I was just blown away by a smile.
And you can also affect what gender, which has to do with the frequency and the tones of the vocal. You can dial it in a little bit on that level too, so let's see how that affects it.
I still remember that day, 'cause I was awake. The way that you walked into the room has captured my heart. That's how the story unfolds, and I was just blown away.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with a Pitcher here, how you set the key that you want the track to be in. And so this is set in a C major, and you can also check it out in a minor of A minor. You see the same notes are highlighted right here. And if you wanted to change it to like a G, where you only change the F to an F sharp, you can see how that plays out too.
I still remember that day, 'cause I was awake. The way that you walked into the room.
So it's kind of having a difficult time snapping between a G and an F sharp right there. And so you kind of maybe turn the speed up. Yeah, that might help glue it in there a little bit better. And then you got this other option here where you can kind of dial in how fast, not really how fast, but how the frequency of the vocal, the range that it's going to affect it, kind of like the tolerance, I guess you'd say. And maybe that's a bad term. But yeah, and so that's another option to kind of auto-tune to pitch correct a vocal using Pitcher. And then probably one of the better ones that is the easiest to use is this G snap. And yeah, that's the word I was looking for with the threshold. But like G snap, this is a free plugin. I got a link to the download in the description. And I think it works a little bit better than Pitcher. I think it's a little bit easier to use, I guess, than Newton. and it kind of works on the same thing. So you select a key and the scale, and you have all these options. And then the scale, most time, if you're going to get into some of these different scales, when you're producing, just kind of make sure you match what you're doing. If you're doing it in a pentatonic, you may be doing like a light pop rock type song, a minor pentatonic, pentatonic, major and minor. It depends on what you're producing really, and how much of the music theory you're actually following. But for this particular vocal, it's in C major, and so kind of run this through, and you guys can see how it works.
I still remember that day 'cause I was awake. The way that you walked into the room has captured my heart. That's how the story unfolds, and I was just blown away.
And so you can see how it kind of snaps to those notes, and how you start to adjust this. I'd kind of leave this detection where it's at first, and you can really get a lot more dialed in through this area, in the correction area. So your threshold would be like basically how much of the note is going to be able to exist, and so if it's running in these black, in these sharps, and you're in this key, you don't want it in there. And so if it is kind of pitchy and it starts to dabble into it, it's going to snap it, so it's not going to play in this zone. But the more you adjust this threshold, the more artificial, I guess you might want to say, the vocal starts to become. And so we just play it again.
I still remember that day 'cause I was awake.
Yeah, and this is a pretty solid vocal, so he's not super pitchy, and it depends on what kind of vocal you're using and how good the singer actually is, because if they can pretty much dial their voice into these notes, this threshold's not going to make a huge difference. It's when you're getting super pitchy and it's bouncing. The problem is if it bounces into there, it could this G snap will either pull it up or pull it down. So you start to adjust this threshold to really dial in the pitchiness. The same thing with the amount. You can dial that up a little bit more. 90% sounds pretty good. It just depends on how pitchy it actually is. The attack is how fast this pitch correction really snaps those vocals in. And so it kind of depends on, again, the vocal, on what kind of ratio you want to keep this attack in. You could leave it as the default, or you could adjust it. It just depends on sometimes someone, when they're first saying a word, it can bounce up and then they level it out, and something like that. You could if it's just a sharp initial pitch error, you could adjust this attack time to bring it into the right note. And the same thing with this release. Sometimes people will draw out like a vibrato. This release time will affect kind of the tail end of the vocal. You just dial it in, whatever sounds, this is kind of an art. It's not so much of a science. What sounds good to your ears is kind of the way you go about it. But I just wanted to show these examples of how to pitch correct. Let me just play this out one more time and kind of tinker with these knobs as it's going.
I still remember that day 'cause I was awake. The way that you walked into the room has captured my heart. That's how the story unfolds, and I was just blown away by your smile and how you cared about me on that night. And I still remember the first time when I saw your pretty face.
Yeah, and so it's a nice vocal. It just needs a little bit of a kind of a pitch correction to kind of take it up a notch. Let's see if it's actually.
I still remember that day 'cause I was
And you can just start building upon it from there. And other than that, I just wanted to show how to pitch correct some of these vocals, and just using G snap. If you don't have Antares, kind of is expensive. It looks like the pro vocal pitch correction is about $400. If you go to Plugin Boutique, AutoTune Access, it's about $100. And so I just wanted to show some of those other options in case you don't have the money to drop on an AutoTune if you're doing a lot of vocals, and at the same time show you guys this Looper Man is a place to get some original vocals if you're not in the mode of just doing remixes of like major label tracks and stuff like that. You want to be more original with the kind of productions you're doing. Check out the Looper Man site. They're not the only one that has these kind of acapellas and stuff like that, but they have a good variety, and support some of these people. And so I appreciate this guy, SY Music, Sergi Yarrow, for his track and basically this demo video. And so if you guys want to work on that track, links in the description. Go download it. Go make some music with this guy's vocal. Other than that, I think I'm gonna wrap this thing up. I appreciate you guys listening, liking, sharing, subscribing, all that kind of social networking things. And other than that, have a good rest of your day, and God bless.